finally be able to pass those fabled gates north of Falador and venture forth into the unknown beyond. What kind of riches and wonder will we discover? I guess we'll have to wait and see in Season 2 of Time Before, the Time Traveling Ironman.
There doesn't seem to be any one costume that really stands out this year, except I did hear about the Martha Stewart costume with the ball and chain. Oh, and look, they got Austin Powers. Yeah, baby, like you could be an astronaut. So it seems everybody wants to be something different this year, but the one costume that'll scare them all, the Weatherman.
After all of the excitement of the Wilderness and Dragon Slayer, Jagex came out with a surprising news post. They were working on yet another massive expansion to RuneScape. However, this expansion would only be available under their first premium service, RuneScape Membership. The Gower brothers then got to work fulfilling their promise, and there was largely radio silence in the weeks that followed. That was, however, until Halloween 2001, where Jagex began their long tradition of holiday celebrations by making edible pumpkins spawn all over the world. These pumpkins could be picked up and consumed like any other food item, but wise players would hold on to them and sell them many years down the road as one of the first discontinued items.
Happy Thanksgiving and welcome back, folks. While we count down the minutes until Santa's arrival, gives a lift to the Wiggles.
Get ready as Barney and his dino pals, Baby Bop and BJ, say it with music, performing I Love the Holidays.
Except it's our old
Okay.
friend.
We get it.
Blimey, Harry, didn't you ever wonder where your mum and dad learned it all?
Learn what?
You're a wizard, Harry.
Now, Potter, I'll give you a taste of my super wizard crackers.
I can be your hero, baby. This is how you remind me of what I really am.
You have my sword. And you have my bow.
And my
red berry pie.
For Christmas 2001, Jagex again wanted to do something for the holiday. This time, they spawned Christmas crackers around the world. These crackers contain maybe the most iconic and sought-after rare item in the entire game, party hats. At the time, all one had to do was use a cracker on another player, and one of them would receive the party hat. The other would receive a free item that, at the time, probably seemed far more useful. But, as time would come to show, it was the silly paper hats that held all of the value in the world. In the modern RS3 era, these party hats can cost well over 30 billion gold, or over 15 times a max cash stack. Many players through the years strove to obtain one of these silly paper hats, only to fall short of the massive status symbol that they are. In OSRS, however, they're no longer discontinued, and you can get a set for just a few thousand gold.
3, 2, 1, happy 2002! Here on New Year's Rockin'. He's been so for 30 years and hopefully will continue for many more.
I'm letting out the cold.
I'm peeing in the shower.
In the new year, players finally got what they were hoping for. Jagex released a teaser post containing a huge list of all of the new features that would be included with the new membership program. A new skill called Herblore, new high-level fish, new high-level weaponry and jewelry, the crafting guild, new high-level monsters, and several new quests including Witch's House, Lost City, Druidic Ritual, and the Fabled Heroes Quest. Then, on February 27th, 2002, RuneScape membership was finally released. A full 6 months since the last major update to the game, it was certainly worth the wait. Players who chose to upgrade to membership for a massive $5 a month or $45 a year were thrown into an entirely new side of the game that would redefine the way it was played forever. This month will certainly prove a challenge, but the unlocks it will also provide will be invaluable. I'm incredibly excited to get started. Are you as well? Let's go ahead and jump back into the game with February 2002. Hello, and welcome to February 2002. Here we are in Talvery, the first members area that I'm sure many of us have memories of exploring. Across the fabled gate north of Falador, this is where you wind up, and this is where our new adventure begins. Welcome to Season 2 of Time Traveling Ironman. So basically, upon members release, the world map did get a lot bigger in terms of members only areas, but it didn't get all that massive. There wasn't actually all that much added. The main cities added were Sears Village, and Catherby, and Brimhaven. But there was no Ardoyne, there was not most of Kandarin, there wasn't a lot of the stuff that you would expect to have been pretty iconic first members experiences upon members' first release. That certainly doesn't mean there isn't a lot of new content in these areas for us to enjoy. So the only real way to get across to the members areas when it was first released was actually to brave the dreaded White Wolf Mountain. Of course, I'm all the way up to level 60, so this isn't really a challenge to me, like it would have been for some of us upon our first day into members, but it's notable that there wasn't even a teleport across the way. You had no choice but to brave this scary mountain every time you wanted to go back and forth. There wasn't the fishing contest tunnel, there wasn't Camelot teleport, there was literally nothing but walking. There wasn't even the Brimhaven to Ardoyne boat yet, but thankfully it was very easy for us to cross because we had all of the equipment that we need to survive. It's also notable that in the current version of the game there is actually a safe path around the mountain by which you don't go past any wolves at all. That definitely would have been a great thing to know when I was young and playing this game for the first time, but way back in RuneScape Classic when it was first released, that path didn't exist either, so you had literally no choice but to brave the wolves to get over to Catherby. But here's the city of Catherby, and I'll explain what we're going to do first. So Catherby was an even sleepier town than we know it now when it was first released. Basically, there was a bank, and there was a fishing shop, and there was fishing spots. But it was still a very notable addition as it was by far the most efficient place to fish high-level fish, as the bank was closer to the fishing spots than literally anywhere else. And here is actually where our journey into members will begin, here at Harry's Fishing Shop. So, why are we here? It's actually pretty simple. One of the main goals we have this month is to get all the way up to 76 fishing so that we can catch shark, which is the new highest food item release this month, and honestly one of the highest healing food items that's still used today. So I'm excited to get that unlock. So we need to fish something to get all the way up to 76 fishing, and we'll also need to cook our fish in order to get up to 80 cooking so we can cook the shark as well. So the question is, what are we going to fish? And it's actually kind of interesting. Fishing actually had a brand new fishing method released with this month, and that's big net fishing, including cod, mackerel, and bass. And you might think it's a little silly for us to do big net fishing, as the food that we get from it is decent but not amazing. But there's a main motivation that I have for doing big net fishing that you might not actually expect. So while big net fishing, there's a chance to get a casket. And in that casket, there's a chance of getting a loop half or a tooth half of the crystal key that is used to unlock the crystal chest. In RuneScape Classic, there was only two ways to get a Dragonstone. One was to get a very rare monster drop, and that still lives on today in the rare drop table that exists for most high-level monsters. However, this method would be extremely slow, as most of the drop rate for the Dragonstone from monsters is like a 1 out of 4,000, and the monsters would be very slow to kill. The second and far more viable option was to get two halves of the crystal key, put them together, unlock the crystal chest, and get a Dragonstone. Now in RuneScape Classic, monsters dropped a lot more tooth halves, but since drop table changes have happened since then, most of them don't. That brings us to big net fishing. Big net fishing, with its relationship with caskets and half keys, really hasn't changed at all since Classic. It's pretty much the same situation, where I have about a 1 out of 128 chance to get a casket while fishing, and that casket gives me a 1 out of 128 chance to get a half key. So all that said, doing some pretty rough calculations with all the experience I need to get for 76 fishing, I have about a double drop rate chance of getting two halves of the crystal key before I hit 76 fishing doing this method. So that's why I've chosen this method. Not only does it get me food for 80 cooking, it gets me up to 76 fishing, it also gives me a very good shot at getting the Dragonstone as part of this grind. And there's a casket now. Unfortunately, there are two items I would be getting from big net fishing that I do have to drop, as they are not currently released. And that's seaweed and oysters. The oysters are not a big deal as they wouldn't be useful for a long time and they might not ever be useful, but the seaweed would be very nice for glass blowing, which is something that's going to be coming up very soon. Unfortunately, I will not be able to bank it. Ultimately, the mackerel and cod aren't going to be super useful to me after this grind, but the bass does heal 13, so that will be a pretty good food source that should hopefully get me through a lot of future PVM content. Alright, with all that out of the way, I guess that's what we're going to be doing. I don't even know how long I'm going to be here. Let's do some fishing. So one really cool thing that actually happened with members release is the bank space actually doubled, so I'll easily be able to store all of the stuff we get from this fishing grind without having to worry about dropping anything. It's effectively 2 full pages of the bank. Alright, there's 61 fishing. The progress is actually going pretty well, but it is still pretty slow. I'm only getting about 10,000 experience per hour here, so this has already been about 15 hours of fishing. And that's realistically only about 15% of the way to 76. So I have a lot of fishing to go. This is kind of funny too, because when big net fishing, you actually have a chance to catch multiple fish at once or multiple items. So you fill your inventory up pretty quickly, but all of the experience that you get per fish is so low, it makes the experience rate terrible. Oh, and if you're curious about the current stacks of fish, over 1,500 mackerel, over 1,000 cod, 800 bass, and 68 caskets already, so that's half of the drop rate of a tooth half or loop half. So it's been literally 30 hours, and this is the first time I've seen someone else big net fishing here. Yay, community! So if I go to deposit this last load of fish in this casket, you can see that I will be all the way up to 128 caskets. And that's pretty notable, as I'm actually going to go ahead and stop here and go ahead and open these caskets. I initially planned to go all the way up to 76 fishing, I'm only 65 on big net fishing, but I realized it's really slow, only about 10k experience an hour, and the food I get isn't all that useful. The mackerels only heal 6, the cods only heal 8. The bass is pretty useful, but it's also only a small portion of the total food I get. So if I can get lucky and get both tooth halves from this 128 caskets, I'll be able to transition to some kind of fishing that's either faster experience or better food. Because both key halves are 1 out of 128, this is a drop rate chance at getting the complete key. It's basically like flipping a coin whether or not I get it. If I don't get it, I'll go ahead and fish another 128. Also, before I start opening these, someone in the comments had a really good suggestion, and that I use bank fillers in order to restrict myself to the number of bank spaces I have available. So you can see here that I have about 47 more bank spaces available before I'm full, so that'll make it a lot easier to avoid going over. So thanks for that suggestion. Alright, let's go ahead and open all of these caskets. Let's see if we get lucky. I think I'm going to hold on to these cosmic talismans just because I'll obviously drop them at the end, but this is the one rare drop that was added to the caskets, and it unfortunately has a very high drop rate, so we're probably going to get quite a few of them, so we'll hang on to them just until the end and then I'll drop them. There's one. It's the loop half. Alright, just need the tooth now. Oh, and a diamond. This would have been a nice method to get a diamond. They're 1 out of 64. And there's the tooth half. Look at that. Only 64 of my caskets? Actually, even only 54 of my caskets. That's incredible. That's the dragonstone knocked out of the way. Let's go ahead and attach these 2 key halves together, and we'll have a completed crystal key. Wow, that's incredibly lucky. This is so nice, since I'll be able to get the rest of the fishing knocked out so much faster. Let's go ahead and open the rest of the caskets anyway, just to see what we can get. Wow, look at that. Not even a single extra piece and no duplicates. I could not have been luckier with this grind. Only 1 diamond. but 9 cosmic talismans. Unfortunately, we'll have to drop these. But if you're on an Ironman and need a cosmic talisman, big net fishing is definitely the way to go. Okay, so with that in mind, I think I'm going to go ahead and do fly fishing up to maybe 72, 73 fishing, and then I'll probably swap over to either harpooning or lobster fishing, as I want some more decent food, but I also want to try to get this knocked out of the way as fast as possible. However, what I'm going to do is cook all of these mackerels and cod before I move over, as I have a basically 100% chance of successfully cooking these now, and that'll improve my chances of cooking trout and salmon when I move over to those for better experience. So I've been feeling really bad about cooking this food. I feel like I might want a taco about it. So I just happened to notice that this guy was named Kanderin and he was arranging people here. I thought that was interesting. He's probably area restricted, so I asked him how the Kanderin only grind goes, and he says, LMAO, it sucks. Alright, that's actually the end of all the mackerels, up to 63 cooking just from that, which is pretty cool. Now we're going to be moving on to the cod, which I believe I also shouldn't burn any of, and I've got 2,000 of those, so let's get started. Alright, that's the end of all of the cods. Now I've cooked these. The bass, however, has a chance of burning all the way up into the upper 70s, so I'm going to try to cook that last. But we still have quite a bit of experience to go, almost 1 million fishing experience and 1.5 million cooking experience. Unfortunately, because I have 0 law runes, I'm going to have to brave the White Wolf Mountain once more. But it's not too bad, I'm 60 combat. So this is actually a good time to call out that I initially forgot to disable the music area unlock settings from Modern back to Classic, so I think I got some music tracks I wasn't supposed to get, or maybe I didn't get some music tracks I was. So even though I walked through here once before, I'm unlocking Kingdom now. So if you saw some weird music unlocks happen when I came into Tal'Vere and into Catherby, that was why. Jagex recently changed the way that you unlock music tracks, and thankfully it's toggleable. So from here on out, you should see the expected music unlocks as I move to new areas. Alright, I don't know if this is enough feathers, but I'm going to go ahead and start with this amount. We'll see how far it gets us. And here we are, back to where we were in June of 2001, home again for a much longer period of time. This is going to be far better than big net fishing though, because it is literally double the experience per hour. So overall, thanks to getting the crystal key early, I'm saving like 35 to 40 hours on the fishing grind, which I am entirely grateful for. The other really nice thing about this process is because I have to make my own fires, I'll be slowly getting up woodcutting, as I need 36 later this month for a quest. So, kind of knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone yet again.
Stop it. Get some help.
Okay, so you're probably wondering what I'm doing back in Catherby. I actually got all the way up to 73 fishing and 75 cooking at the fly fishing spot, and I was almost out of feathers. So I decided I'm going to come back here and do 73 to 76 fishing all the way with tuna and swordfish. Swordfish being pretty nice as they are a 14 heal, and one of the easiest high healing foods I can get until I can get sharks, which is the goal, obviously. Overall, the fly fishing grind also got me up to almost 30 woodcutting and 34 fire making, which is pretty nice. I'm also already almost up to 5 million total experience. I cannot understate just how long this has taken so far. It literally has been about 2 weeks of real time since you last saw a clip, and around 40 to 50 hours of gameplay. But thankfully, I am under 20 hours left to 76 fishing, and it'll be nice to bank up some decent food. So I will see you when we hit 76. Oh no, I was kind of afraid of this. That's a big swordfish, which is a collection log item. So that will be marked off my collection log, even though it doesn't get released until construction in 2006. But unfortunately, I do need to drop it for now, as I won't be able to make use of it. Goodbye, friend. And just like this, we are done with fishing. Well, not entirely. Now that I've got 76 fishing and I can actually catch sharks, I'm going to go ahead and move over and just catch probably about 100 for now. Even when I get 80 cooking, the burn rate for sharks is going to be so incredibly high that it won't necessarily be worth using them for a little bit. But I will need quite a few of them down the road, and to celebrate, I figured why not get about 100 stack. So I think I'm going to fish about 150, and that should leave me with at least 100 cooked ones after that I can use down the road. But man, what a journey this fishing was. I am incredibly happy that we're almost done. Alright, it is incredibly slow to fish sharks this way. I'm only getting about 80 an hour, which is absolutely terrible. But I've already got 160 banks, so that should at least help a lot. I'm going to go ahead and cook all of the food now. I'm going to go ahead and start with the tuna, which should be pretty burn free at my level. Then I'll go on to the bass, and then finally the swordfish, and that should result in burning the least amount of food possible. Let's go ahead and cook all this up and get up to 80 cooking. So as it turns out, even though I've cooked everything in my bank, I'm just under 100k short of 80 cooking, which means that I'll need to fish around about 600 to 700 more fish in order to get the level. So I came back and started harpooning more tuna and swordfish, and I got another big swordfish. That's 2 of them, and I can use neither. And there we go. Finally, 80 cooking. It's so incredibly strange that shark have such a large increase in cooking level versus the fishing level required to catch. Almost every other fish has the same cooking as fishing, or lower. So, it's a little annoying. But now we can finally cook shark. Let's go ahead and get these 160 shark cooked. Here we go. The first cooked sharks on the account. These are a massive 20 HP heal per bite, which is just absolutely incredible. These will be invaluable for many, many years to come. And I'm actually cooking quite a few of them. It's supposed to have about a 30% burn rate at my level, so we'll see what happens. Whew, and this will be the end of another journey, albeit a very boring one, unfortunately. Let's go see how much food we've amassed for the coming months. So depositing this, you can see that I burned right about 1/3 of the sharks. This is why I'm not really going to be fishing and cooking anymore after this month. In just a couple of months, we get an unlock that will make it a lot easier to cook sharks and will make it a lot more efficient to actually get them. But I've still got over 100 here that might come in handy just in case there's any high-level content that I need to have high-healing food for. Other than that, I've also got over 2,000 swordfish, 1,500 bass, and 2,600 tuna to work through. These are all plenty high healing enough to do any sort of generic grinding that I need to, but they probably won't be sufficient for any future bossing. I'll need sharks for that. Also, I have this 2,200 cod and 3,100 mackerel. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with them. I'll probably take them along if they're enough to sustain me at any low-level monsters, but other than that, they're not super great. As you can see, I did burn a little bit of tuna and a little bit of swordfish near the very end, but overall, I did this pretty efficiently and I didn't really burn any food. That said, I was still about 100k cooking experience short of 80 and had to go a little bit over the fishing goal. Obnoxiously, I actually have to take out all of these one by one and drop them. It's really unfortunate, but without banknotes, I can't just note them and drop them. So this will be a little obnoxious, but I wanted to save them up and see just how many we burnt. There we go, that's all cleaned out of the bank. Huge pile of burnt food on the ground. And then of course, there is one more thing we need to do today, and that's to use this crystal key. Let's head over to that chest. In this unassuming house here in the druid village of Talvery, there's a chest, and you wouldn't be able to tell this is a unique or special chest just by looking at it, but this is actually the fabled crystal chest, of which can only be unlocked with a crystal key. And when you do so, you get some loot, plus a guaranteed dragon stone. And of course, I got the worst loot possible, a spinach roll. The important part is we got the dragon stone. A bit of trivia for you. RuneScape Classic had a lot of bugs that resulted in it ultimately getting shut down. However, the crystal chest bug was one of the most prominent, as there was only a couple of worlds in RuneScape Classic. There was only a couple of crystal chests, and it was possible to glitch the chest so that it was stuck open, and no one could use a key on it to get a dragon stone. So dragon stones and glory amulets were actually really hard to come by back in the day in the late days of RuneScape Classic. Thankfully, we don't have that bug today. And this is where I need to let you know, unfortunately, that I will be taking yet another excessive grinding exception for the Dragonstone Amulet. Now that I've got the Dragonstone, that was only part 1 of the formula. I still need 80 crafting to be able to craft this into an amulet. And that is probably another 100 and 50 to 200 hours of silver crafting away. However, if I was to delay to next month, there will be new interesting and useful crafting training methods available to me that I think would be worthwhile to use. So, to make the series more interesting, I'm going to be taking an excessive grinding exception for the glory. Getting the Dragonstone was the only part that I wanted to do this month. But we still have a lot to do in this month, and I am looking forward to starting. We're going to be starting next video by getting to know the druids a little bit better and learning their arcane art of herb lore. I hope to see you then, and I will see you next time for more Time Traveller Ironman. Take care, everyone.